So, as I've said before, I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on what goes on in Bristol, because Bristol in particular is, of course, now under full control of the Green Party, and I am expecting things to go, well, a bit Pete Tong in the near future. As I've said before, Sheffield, just down the road from me, the Greens at one point were on the cusp, and then infighting happened, and it just destroyed the party, which is still going on to this day. Very, very much so in the Sheffield Green Party. And it destroyed the run of an MP who could have actually possibly won, but because there was so much infighting and other stuff going on, that run for that guy absolutely failed. And now, of course, you have them fully in control of Bristol. But what's going on in Bristol is you have the outer Greens, who are the very, very, very much so NIMBYs, and then the inner Greens, who are like in the inner city, who want, like, well, stuff being built, more infrastructure. And eventually, these two groups will clash, as they always end up doing in the Green Party. Don't let anyone in the Green Party ever tell you that there's no infighting in their party. There absolutely is. It goes on quite a lot and quite frequently, and is a lot easier to find than you actually think it is, especially when you go looking for it. And at the moment, they are about to do something down there that could backfire on them quite spectacularly. Could backfire on them quite spectacularly. If you haven't heard, Bristol Council is going to be the first council to now move to collecting black bins every 4 weeks. And we're going to have a look at what is being said in the Guardian, the national newspaper, and then we're going to shift over to Bristol Live to have a look at what's said by people living in Bristol about, well, the state of their current bin collections, and of course, how they think this is going to go down. And I think you could see this backfiring on them quite spectacularly, because remember, one of the first big things they did when they got in control of Bristol Council was that they had been a massive blocker on building this brand new council estate. They had been saying, no, we can't build this. This is a terrible idea. We can't build this. First thing they do as soon as they're in power, actually, we're going to approve that. It's a bit, bit weird going on, but yeah, you're about to see why. Like I say, I don't take the Greens very seriously as a party. I cannot take them seriously because they do so much stuff that contradicts. You know, you have one person that says this that suddenly becomes party policy because they don't get challenged on it by people like Carla Denyer or Adrian what's his face, their co-leader, who has said things that's contradicted stuff that Carla Denyer has said. And then you're like, well, hold on a second. What's going on here? What is actually meant to be the Green Party policy when both your co-leaders have said something a bit slightly different? And then, of course, you've got the whole HS2 thing where you saw that being approved at conference. That has upset the apple cart for a lot of people. You've even noticed Carla Denyer gone very, very silent about her criticisms of HS2 because of that. Interesting stuff going on there. But we're going to go get more into this because it is, I think, going to backfire on them quite spectacularly on this. So before we do go getting more into this, please do remember to click on the like, the share button. The down below, you've got the Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link where you can all buy me a coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. So this, of course, being covered in The Guardian. Bristol Council may become the first English council to collect black bins every 4 weeks. So Bristol City Council could become the very first local authority in England to collect black rubbish bins once every 4 weeks. The Green-led council says that switching from a 2 to 4 weekly collection would save it more than £2 million a year and, of course, help reverse a dip in recycling rates. And what is kind of funny is, why are you going from 2 to 4? What should be done here, to me, in my mind, if I was on this council, was if there has been a dip, then clearly clearly there needs to be more education with the public about their bins, what can actually go in these bins, and educating the public about that. That doesn't seem to be their first port of call, to be honest. Instead, they are going to do this in the hope that this reverses the dip in recycling rates. I don't think this is going to work out. I do not think this is going to work out. So the council believes it will be the first in England to move collections to every 4 weeks. Some residents and, of course, political opponents have now expressed concern that it could lead to now more non-recyclable rubbish being fly-tipped. And almost over 2,000 people have so far signed a Labour petition against this idea. The council argues that it has not seen evidence of fly tipping increasing in areas and has also now moved to a 3 weekly collections and says it has powers to clamp down on offenders. So this is kind of funny, because if you actually look at the consultation that's going ahead, because the Greens, remember, are in control, they're doing this. So this consultation, or at least this change, is being put forward by the Green councillors, by their environmental body, which is again run by a Green councillor. He said, "Oh, we're going to have a public consultation, and then the decision is going to be made by him." I guarantee you, they are not going to listen to this public consultation on this. So, the authority has already now launched a 6 weeks consultation on Monday that hopes to at least make a decision by spring. Residents are, of course, being asked if collections should stay the same or move to a 3-week or 4-week pattern. Bear in mind, we're going to go over the comments on Bristol Live in a moment to see the actual state of what the actual bin collection is like going on in Bristol. Maybe instead of moving to these, measures, maybe you should be looking at maybe sorting out the bin collection that's currently going on in Bristol at the moment, because it doesn't seem to me, as we'll get into a moment, that a lot of Bristol residents are actually happy with how bin collection is currently going. So Bristol is currently home to about 483,000 people living in more than 191 households and is growing. The council says that on average, each person creates up to 400 kilograms of household waste each year. But for the past 2 years, Bristol has recycled about 45% of its household waste, among the best now records in the UK. But the council says that the recycling rate has now dropped, making the challenge vital. So, okay, why aren't you going out and re-educating people? Because it could just be a matter of education. But I don't think it necessarily is, where you have a look at what some of the Bristol residents are saying at the moment about the state of the bin collection. So Councillor Martin Fordell, the chairman of the Environmental and Sustainability Committee, said, "Anything that ends up in the black bin waste is now taken away for incineration or sent to landfill, both of which comes with now serious environmental costs and issues. Burning or leaving waste or decomposing a landfill reduces carbon and other harmful substances into the atmosphere. This pollutes the air and air around us, and of course contributes to fueling climate change. Challenging government regulation and increasing costs of dealing with the black bin waste means that keeping and managing our city's wastes effectively, we are now currently doing, set to become, is now much more expensive. The council does estimate that the introduction of these new charges on disposing of the black bin waste and incinerating it, or is selling it to a landfill, will have over £800 million a year on top of now the existing charges of the cost of managing the city's waste system, if the changes are, of course, not made." Again, why are you making or insisting that these changes are made when you were one of the biggest cities on, like, recycling here? I think this is, first of all, I think it's a matter of education to the residents of Bristol, making sure that, hey, this is what can go in each bin. Second of all, as we'll see in a moment, seems to be a matter of vast inconsistency being carried out by the council in collecting these bins. And remember now, the Greens are in charge here. You'd think maybe they would be interested in educating people more about recycling, telling them which bin does which. But no, they're going to sort of go to 4 weekly in the hopes that people will recycle more. Again, the hope that people will recycle more. I can't really see that happening, if I'm honest. So the council estimates that the introduction of new charges on disposing black bin waste, and you should always remember council estimates. Hang on, we've already seen that, already done that. It says that a quarter of black bin waste in Bristol is, of course, food waste, and this could be recycled in the food waste bin. And a quarter of paper, card, and glass, and plastic cans, and textiles, and etc., and small electoral items could also all be recycled. Well, do they have that information? Do they have that? Do they know that there are stations and things? And then what about convenience for them? If they're already paying for this, why are they going to go somewhere to recycle something when it's easier just to put it in their black bin? But there you go. Maybe there is serious an element of education that needs to be needs to be done here. So the council, of course, acknowledges that if it does not move, if it, of course, does move to monthly collections, it will have to make changes to how people can actually recycle, possibly increasing the use of the recycling sacks or now introducing recycle bins now for each household. So it seems to me that there's certainly now a lack of actual recycling infrastructure here as well. Um, there you go. Again, I can see this being quite a disaster for Bristol. Like I say, if you do live in Bristol, please do let me know. But we're about to read some comments from people in Bristol at the moment. It doesn't look very good, to be honest. It will also now look at trying to offer larger bins for larger households, and of course, an extra collection for people now with sanitary projects or nappies. Tom Reinhardt, Bristol City Council's Labour group leader, said that before you start considering whether to go to even 3 or 4 weekly bin collections, there needs to be a focus on actually sorting out the existing service first and to make sure that it's functioning as it should be. Which, as you'll see in a moment, is the big problem. He called now for innovations such as now a citywide nappy recycling scheme and, of course, better measures to actually tackle soft plastic waste. Residents who have signed the petition include Amy, who did not give her surname, said it will also now increase rubbish now on the streets and put families under pressure. Even if families recycle as much of their waste as possible, there's still going to be a considerable amount of things that need to go in the black bin. So, now you've seen the comments there. Let's go, of course, over to Bristol Live instead. Let's see what some of these comments instantly go on here. So, someone says, now they want a ban on throwaway cups. This would save a lot of recycling contamination. Again, that will happen. Someone says here, a proposal now of collection every 4 weeks is really to get the idea of a 3-weekly collection more rapidly accepted. Fordor now has taken on the role of a teacher lecturing naughty children, which is something very much tiresome, but for the Green Party, it is pretty typical. And this, bear in mind, is what I've seen a lot of people saying in these comments, that they actually want to go to 3 weeks. So they're saying, oh, well, we'll go to 4 weeks instead because that will be better. But, we might just have to accept 3 weeks. Someone had said here, reducing collections isn't the way to increase recycling. All it will do is increase fly tipping. Someone says here, there's usually a skip nearby. Just wait until it's dark and throw your stuff in there. Someone else says, I'm very much in support of recycling waste, including recycling and, of course, being more sustainable. However, I do not think that the iOS now is the answer. And if we're going to see a reduction in the bin emptying frequency, will this actually cost saving now be passed on to us, the council taxpayers? I think not. We will continue to pay for a service and we won't be getting, or we won't now have to be dealing with overflowing bins on our doorsteps now for the privilege. Yep. So here was this. Someone else said, "What about the high-rise blocks of flats?" Will they actually separate their waste or throw it down a chute? There's a very small block of council flats just by down the road from me where I live, and they have a big green dumpy bins to throw everything away in. Again, how much he's going to do? Someone else raised a very good question. How much is the consultation actually costing? Another waste of money, given that the council's already made up their minds up and already now trialing the system by stealth. Again, this is what everyone is saying about, oh, actually, they've already gone to 3 weeks bin collection on this. Not I agree with, of course, monthly bin collection, but those now complaining about the overflowing bins are those who don't recycle properly. Well, again, maybe they need explaining on that. And of course, the exception, of course, being with larger families and, of course, nappy kids. There is no way you can get away with feeling 2 black bins every two weeks. This should be fine with at least 4. What do people throw away to fill up a black bin? Recycle boxes, however, need, of course, to be bigger. This is just punishment for the profligate. Sort out your lives and take some responsibility rather than expect the council to be your nanny. The council said, council a couple of years ago, the council made the bin smaller. This was a smart decision to drive up recycling. We all agreed that recycling was now the best way forward. However, we see time and time again that the Bristol Waste is now very poor at being consistent in their collection now of recycling. That has to be solved. Yeah, someone else says it here. No matter how Bristol Council, quote, packaged this latest bin collection service, we all know is now just saving a money-saving device on which will now result in overflowing rubbish. Our council taxes will now increase by the minimum amount allowed each year, with now extra charges for things that were now previously included. This is not the way to ensure public cooperation. This is just absurd. The only way I hope now to save money is we could actually save more money if we had any of these councillors in the first place. The lesson is do not vote green again. Yeah, rats and flies will be swarming. Then the council will have to come clear up the mess that I left. I, for one, will make sure that there is nothing to incriminate me in the bin liner and will dump just in a road. Not mine, of course, probably now in an estate. Again, not very happy. You'll see this. Someone else says here, manage decline. Someone else points out very, very good point here. Someone who lives alone, I could probably deal with this. However, my thoughts are now with families, probably already recycling as much as they can to ensure that the black bin isn't full. I doubt I could actually manage with 4 weeks. Someone else said, I thought they were already collecting every 4 weeks. Someone else says here, is there anything the council can actually get right? Spurging millions on highway remodeling / vanity projects is not yet enough money now for essential services. Something is very wrong at the council. Again, typical comment, by the way. I see that again about Barnsley Council. So I do realize there's a lot of griping about the council going on, but there you go. But there are some valid points amongst these comments. For those of us who now already make an effort to actually recycle as much as possible, this will now be nothing less than a reduced service. Maybe more effort should actually be put into action against those lazy people who can't be bothered. This is just Bristol Council jumping on a bandwagon to cut costs. As far as we are concerned, the main service we are getting for the money we pay in council tax. So you can see someone here. They actually recycle as much as they can, but they feel they're being punished for this. Like I say, I don't think this consultation is going to reveal the results they want, but they've already pretty much made their decision. This is the way they're going to go because they have full control. They can do what they want at this point, and I think they will pretty much dictate that to the people of Bristol. Someone else says here, without proper infrastructure to make this work, it will be a disaster. We already have now to navigate our way through overflowing bins every day on the school run, with the cycle boxes now left out with broken glass, tins, and more. A 2-weekly household waste collection is just about manageable. If you want people to recycle more, you need to make this easier. The tiny boxes recycling now leave a risk of being used by others to dump more mucky waste in. There is no easy way to reach these drop-off points where people say that they might put cardboard. and of course the larger recyclable items. I strongly suspect this is less about recycling and more about saving money, and will only be to benefit now the more wealthy areas of Bristol, with regular now street cleaning and fly tipping attending now in good time. Again, like I say, this isn't going down well. As you can see, a lot of people in Bristol. Um, Someone else says here, a lot of bins are now properly full to the brim after 2 weeks. This doesn't take into account for how big the households are, or people who have lots of babies and nappies in their bins. Foxes and rats and seagulls will have an absolutely good time. Fly tipping could increase too. Someone else said here, this already happens. They may as well consult over a 5 to 6 week collections and now get ahead of the game. They will eventually declare bankruptcy and they will just tell us now to buy a steel bin and probably fine us when we use it. So now, is my recycling actually going to be collected weekly, or is it simply going to be forgotten about? Which is the usual answer uh, when we get the call about missed collections. We've we'll of course empty our recycling bins. Actually, of course, make it now back to our path unbroken, or will it just be flung to one side by the waste operatives? I finally assume that Bristol City Council will assume it will be, of course, reducing my council tax due to the fact that I'm paying for something that I now won't be receiving. So there is more problems here going on, and it does seem to be, first of all, from what I can see, lack of education going on. Clearly, because if you've had a drop off rate, maybe you just need to remind people about this, about about recycling, about what's going on here. And then maybe you actually need to sort out the current service as it is. It doesn't seem to me a lot of people in Bristol are too enthused about the current service that they've got. And as far as they're concerned, all this is going to lead to is more rubbish on the streets. I can guarantee you now this is going to backfire. I can guarantee you this is going to backfire big time on the Greens. And what you're going to get is you're going to get all these Greens in Bristol on the city council basically turn around and saying, you should recycle more. That doesn't help. That doesn't help when, Bristol streets, or, streets of Bristol in certain, estates are just full of rubbish. It's not going to help. But that's the attitude you're going to get from a lot of those Green councillors. They're just going to turn around, oh, you should recycle more. Say there's more obvious ways, I think, to solve this problem, but I don't think the Greens are pursuing it that well, to be honest. But hey, they're the ones in charge now, and just me, I think we're going to see even more stories over the next couple of years about, shall we say, some of their decisions made by this particular council, because there's already another story that's happening in Bristol as well, about them closing off a street and all the residents being absolutely furious because they're closing off the street about it. So yeah, this is it. Yeah, this is what happened. Let me show you this. Um, yeah, police called out as residents now block work to install livable neighborhoods. So these are people saying, "Hey, why are you trying to block off our street? We want to keep this street." Now, I don't know too much about these protesters. Maybe these are like the 15-minute city fanatics, but it seems to me that there wasn't a proper consultation put out here. Doesn't seem to me that there was a proper consultation done here, and that this just seems to be given the go ahead by the Greens because, oh, it's going to be fantastic, right? So this, as you can see here, So, the East Bristol Livable Neighbourhood is, of course, an attempt by the City Council now to reduce traffic in parts of the Barrett Hill, Lawrence Hill, Redfield, and St George by closing off side roads to cars, creating a series now of no through roads, dead ends, and cul-de-sacs, while allowing pedestrians and cyclists to go through. The aim is now to filter all through traffic onto the main roads in the area, but the implementation has been hugely controversial and created now a lot of congestion, with some residents saying now their car journeys have even doubled or even tripled in length. But remember, guys, you'll just be told to cycle more or just, use the public transport more rather than use your cars. Um, yeah, it doesn't look like it's going well in Bristol, does it, guys? Doesn't look like it's going well. So as always, let me know what you think, especially if you do live in Bristol. I'd be very interested to know what your thoughts on some of the stuff going on are. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, we'll see you all next time.